The purpose of the paper is to understand not as who is turning out to elections and voting, but who is not. In other words, what we really wanted to establish in this piece of research was understanding the demographic profile and attitudinal profiles of non-voters in South Africa. So why do research on non-voters in the first instance? In 2019, as we went to the polls in our general election, we saw a sudden decrease in voter turnout and electoral participation. And this really accelerated an already steady decline in electoral participation since 1994. But the question is, so what? Does it matter if people begin to turn away from the polls? Well, low voter turnout globally is associated with negative indicators for the health of a democracy. It's seen perhaps as a sign of voter apathy. It's also seen as a sign of growing mistrust in the political system itself. It also throws question marks over the sanctioning and representative functions of a democracy. If people decline to turn out and participate, their views, thoughts, and preferences are not recorded in an election outcome, and this undermines representation. And then the overall quality of democracy, its entire legitimacy, can stand to be scrutinized. Of all eligible South Africans who are allowed to vote, 75% were registered. 66% of all registered citizens actually turned out to vote on the day. But if we take a step back and we look at the broader picture, and we look at a far more accurate measure of voter turnout by looking at eligible voters, what we call the voting age population, all South Africans 18 years old and older who are eligible to cast a vote in South Africa, we find that in fact only 49% of all eligible South Africans cast a vote in 2019. This means that more South Africans did not vote. Although declining turnout in itself is a concern, the way it is unfolding in South Africa is of deep concern. And this is because it is being primarily driven by the withdrawal of young people from active voting. And this dramatic decrease in this particular age group is worrisome because South Africa has a young population, what we call a youth bulge. Now, although young people declining to participate is actually a global phenomenon, we see it in other democracies around the world, it's having a lesser impact on aggregate turnout because young people in older democracies make up a smaller proportion of the population. In South Africa, we make up a greater proportion of the population. So, in a sense, the inactivity of young people at elections will come to shape our future elections. And this is because voting is a learned habit. So what's actually happening is that the habit of not voting is being learned by young people in South Africa. And as they move up the age cohort, so this habit of non-voting is seeping into our electorate. Of course, non-voting has a lot to do with registration. So much of the research looks at who is registering and who is not registering. Of the under 40-year-olds who are eligible, only 46% are registered to vote. If we zoom in and look at the under 20s, so that'll be our 18, 19 and 20-year-olds, of all of those eligible to vote, only 19% are registered to do so, and fewer actually cast a vote. If we look at the under 30s, between 20 and 30-year-old, 54% are registered to vote. In other words, just over half can participate on the day. Political parties and independent candidates who wake up to the notion that we have a formidable force of young people who are up for grabs, potentially, and who push policy platforms and positions that resonate with this younger group of voters, they hold the key to future electoral swings in the country.